difference between the term Latino, Hispanic, and Latinx. The term Latino refers to a person from Latin American origin or descent. Hispanic refers to a person from Spain origin or descent. And Latinx, which is the most common term used in the US, refers to a person of Latin American origin, descent, and is gender neutral. The US consists of citizens that are rich in culture and ethnic backgrounds. The Latinx community is one of the biggest groups in the US that has issues with identity. Majority of Latinx descent citizens are found with a hard/difficult time identifying with both of their backgrounds. For instance, if there are Mexican Americans, like in the picture, they find it difficult either to identify with Mexico or with the US. Additionally, it could be the other way around, that they do identify with both, but it's just the identity varies. Some of the issues that the Latinx community have to face are misconceptions, especially in the media. Latinx community is portrayed as being rapists, drug lords, gangsters, and so forth, and that they come here to rob the Americans' jobs, which is not the case. In Hollywood, for instance, most of the roles that Latinos have is either being waitresses, being a police officer, a gangster, a drug lord, and the most common one that appeals to the white heterosexual men is the Latina with a sexy accent, just like in Modern Family with Sofia Vergara, which is just not the case. And to interview a member of Latinx community in the US and her experiences and what she thinks about all of these issues and what can be done about it to avoid the truth about racism that Latinos have to face in the US and identity crisis. And her name is Edith, and she'll be explaining to you a little bit more.
Tell me your name, your major, your year, and where do you currently study?
Hi, my name is Edith Avila. I'm a third year studying urban studies and public health policy at the University of California, Irvine.
I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. Please answer with sincerity. First question: what is your ethnic background?
I would consider my ethnic background to be Mexican American.
Second question: do you identify as Latino, Hispanic, or Latinx, and why?
I would consider myself Latinx because it's gender neutral.
Third question: you mentioned that you're Mexican American. Do you identify more as being Mexican or American, and why? Or both?
I would say both, but it depends where I'm at. So in the US, I would consider myself more Mexican, just because I can't really compare myself to my white counterpart, the other people. But when I go to Mexico, I don't feel Mexican. I feel more American. So I would say that I would consider myself both, just depending on where I'm geographically at.
Okay, next question. What are some common stereotypes among the Latinx community in America? And have you ever experienced or heard or met people around you that experience racism in the U.S.?
An example, my dad one time was driving to work and this police officer stopped him for no apparent reason. And my dad, since his first language was Spanish, he doesn't really speak good English. It's broken. And when he was trying to talk to the police officer was telling him that he thought my dad had some type of drug inside his car, but there was no reason for him to believe that. So I do consider that was a little bit of racism, just because of the color of my dad's skin. He assumed that my dad was a drug dealer or something just because of the color of his skin and his race.
Related to your answer, what are some common stereotypes that the media in the US portray Latinx people?
I would say that a lot of times they think we're criminals. They think that we're drug dealers. And that happens a lot because of politics, like Donald Trump assuming that all Latinx individuals are criminals and drug dealers when that's not really the case.
Okay. Do you think that there's a such thing as Latinx white superiority?
I do think there is white superiority, especially in the US, just because they are the ones who are able to adapt to this culture, and it was meant for them. But yeah.
Given that you said that your dad was stopped by the police because of the color of his skin, do you think if he would have been lighter skinned, it wouldn't have been the same interpretation that police had at that moment?
Yes, because I've my mom doesn't speak English,
Mm-hmm.
but because she's light skinned and she has green eyes, a lot of times she's not stopped like my dad, just because of the color of her skin. So you can tell that it's racism.
Last question, but not least. What can be done to avoid Latinx misconceptions in the US?
I think that to avoid common misconceptions of the Latinx community in the US, I would say that we need more representation of our own communities. We need to tell our own stories. Um, Throughout history, our stories have been told by white men who don't really understand the Latinx community because they've never lived in the Latinx community, so they don't understand it. All they know is that it's drug dealers and we're criminals because of certain media that represents us like that, and but they don't really truly know what it means to be in the Latinx community and what our culture is all about and how hard our people work